Minnesota veterans report for training camp on July 27th at TCO Performance Center in Eagan as the Vikings look to repeat their best season since 1998 with a new expensive QB under center. We'll break down the roster and go in-depth on the depth chart as we preview training camp for the Minnesota Vikings by going one-on-one with Adam Patrick, Vikings writer for thevikingage.com on the OFN Meeting Room with Greg DePalma. It's Thursday, July 5th, 2018. I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in to the OFN Meeting Room as we preview NFL training camps for the 2018 season. And we continue that today with Minnesota writer for thevikingage.com, Adam Patrick. Adam, thanks for helping us talk Minnesota Vikings football today.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
You got it, Adam. So how long have you been covering the team?
I've been covering them for probably, the past 5 or 6 years. I just got my writing stuff going on my own. I had my own blog just covering the Vikings, and then slowly progressed to where I am now. And before that, and still now, I've been a fan of the team since pretty much that 98 season.
Okay.
I was around like 10 years old. So, and Randy Moss came around, and that kind of just got me into it as it probably did for a lot of other people.
Right.
So I've been following this team for quite some time now.
And how long you been with thevikingage.com? Same time?
A
little shorter.
Coming up on probably 2 years.
Okay.
In December, so about a year and a half.
All right. And you having fun with it? You like the what do you like about the website? What do you like about the work?
Yeah. It's fun because we just get to write about whatever topics we really feel like, kind of try and give it more of an opinion base on it rather than just straight up news. So like if something's going on, we'll give you the news, but at the same time we'll also, give you an opinion that might be different from, all the other sites that are reporting on the news.
That's good.
Sometimes we like to have fun with stuff. Like the other day we published a piece of like the top 10 or top celebrities that root for the Vikings. So we do some fun stuff like that.
Okay. And give me a couple of names from the list.
We've got Nick Swartzen, comedian. He roots for the Vikings.
Okay.
Josh Duhamel. He's in Transformers and stuff like that.
Who's the most popular?
I'd say Nick Swartzen. He's up there just because of his social media following and stuff like that, and being in like Adam Sandler's movies and stuff.
All right.
And then there's people like Louis Anderson, old comedian. Even the random people like Kevin Sorbo, the guy that used to play Hercules in like the live action Hercules TV series. He's a Vikings fan. Of course, there's Prince. He's no longer with us, but he was a big Vikings fan.
That's true.
When he was alive. So there's a bunch of them out there that still decide to root for the Vikings, even though it's become pretty painful every year.
Yeah, you look back at. You say every year. Historically, wow, 6 championship game losses and 4 Super Bowl losses. That's tough, especially for the old timers that have been around even longer than me. That's got to be tough to swallow. And last year, after the big win over the Saints, and I remember talking about the championship game and reminding everybody of, say, the Immaculate Reception. Pittsburgh didn't win the Super Bowl that year. You don't know if those plays. Now sometimes they do, and then when you win the Super Bowl, they'll say, "Oh, it's because of the dramatic win, and it was a team of destiny." But more often than not, it takes more than just getting a big play in a big playoff game, team of destiny stuff, and it had to be a really disappointing way to lose after that big win.
Yeah, certainly it was, but if at the same time, if you've been a fan of this team or following this team for the last 20 years, you kind of become used to stuff like that. Like even after that win, getting writing about the previewing the championship game and stuff, and I'm still like letting people know like hey, they still have to win another game to even get to the Super Bowl, and they haven't been able to get past this hump since like the 70s.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to really think that they can do it right now until they prove otherwise. But under Mike Zimmer, they've experienced a lot of success that they haven't really previously with the last couple head coaches. So he's definitely got them headed in the right direction, and I think he's the guy that can probably get them eventually over the hump and into the Super Bowl and maybe even win a Super Bowl.
Well, of course, his side of the ball, his expertise, his defense, offensively, that's where the changes are. 3 quarterbacks gone, including Case Keenum. And you bring in Cousins for the big contract, the big guaranteed contract, and a new coordinator, John DeFilippo, who was the quarterback coach for the Eagles last year when they won the Super Bowl. So, he's somebody that is a hot commodity, and that seems to be a good hire. So, how much different is this offense going to be with a new coordinator and, of course, a new quarterback?
I don't think it's going to be as different as some people might expect. I think some people are expecting the Vikings to just become like a passing team, up and down the field, just tossing deep balls all over the field. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Mike Zimmer's being that Zimmer's a defensive coach, he likes to control the clock with the run game and stuff like that. So I'm sure that he's emphasized that he still wants to do that and be able to, have a solid run game. But at the same time, with Kirk Cousins, you can do more things in the passing game. And with DeFilippo, he runs a version of the West Coast offense, which, it needs the running backs and it relies on the running backs and tight ends to, make a lot of the plays, and then gets people the ball in, shorter route situations, not necessarily deep routes. So like players like Diggs and Thielen will get the ball in their hands quickly and, be put in situations where they can make plays with the ball. But yeah, at the same time, Mike Zimmer, he likes controlling that clock because he likes to play, closer games and win with his defense. So, the running game is still probably going to dictate what the Vikings do next year. But at the same time, they can. I feel like they can definitely do a lot more with Kirk Cousins than what they were able to do with Case Keenum last year.
Yeah, you would think so, especially in the long run. By the way, not just defense, but this team is built to win with special teams. Very good special teams unit. Maybe, except for maybe, I'm not going to, look, I'm a Jet fan, so Ryan Quigley was with the Jets at one point. It looks like, he's got, there is something about him as far as the fact that, what did he have, like they had no touchbacks? He
didn't have any. I don't think he had any touchbacks, at least in the regular season. He didn't have any.
Yeah, so he had something, the rest of the stats were not all that great, but he did have that. And that's important for field position and sticking the team deep and having your defense in field position. So that's important.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And you lose McKinnon, but Sherrell's very good. At his job as a punt returner, he's got 5 career punt returns. Forbath is a solid kicker, 6 of 9 from 50-plus last year, even though he did miss a few extra points. But still, fact is that is a really good unit. Let's start with the offense, though. And, again, not only Cousins, but Simeon comes in. So that's it. The unit's set, and it's just a matter of Cousins developing chemistry. But I think the big story, really offensively, personnel-wise, is definitely Dalvin Cook. Is having him healthy is going to be a big boost.
Oh, for sure. Even Latavius Murray being healthy this year, because going into last season he was coming off of ankle surgery. He wasn't really able to participate in any of the OTAs or the mini camp going into the season, and the earlier part of the season he was still getting used to, getting back of the swing of things. So even having Latavius Murray healthy, I think is going to help Dalvin Cook, adjust back into the Vikings offense and get back into the form that people were able to see at the beginning of last year, because he was a very dynamic player and he can do a lot of things, catch out of the backfield, just run the ball with power or just zip right by you. But I do think the Vikings are going to ease him in more than some people may think, just because of his knee injury and the workload that that he had at the beginning of the year, because he was pretty much there. He carried pretty much all the balls out of the backfield last year, and I think that might have contributed to his knee injury. So the Vikings have a history of dealing with knee issues on their roster, so I think they know that it's probably best to just sort of ease him into things. Not saying that he won't have a big role on the offense earlier in the year, but I just think that with Latavius Murray being healthy, though, they might use him a little more, and then as the season goes by, Dalvin Cook will be the guy that gets most of the carries and passes out of the backfield.
So basically, with McKinnon no longer here, and the fact that they did not go out and add another Jerick McKinnon type, Dalvin Cook basically takes over for McKinnon, right? That's really how it is, because McKinnon had 51 receptions last year, and Cook had 11. And hardly played compared to Murray, who was the lead running back, only had 15. So is that how it's going to work? Because there really isn't a top number 3 on this team right now, right?
Yeah, not right now. I mean, they've got a couple undrafted free agents that are competing for the third running back job. But even last year when it was Cook, Murray, and McKinnon in the backfield, McKinnon didn't really get on the field that much when Cook was in there. He got most of his work after Cook got injured, so Cook was going to be that guy for that role last year as the receiving running back. And
sure.
So I don't think McKinnon's loss will be as big as some people may think. He's a good player. He's fun to watch. I wish him the best in San Francisco. I think he's going to be really good in Kyle Shanahan's offense. But I think Dalvin Cook is definitely a better option if he can stay healthy than McKinnon was for the Vikings.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And McKinnon was the one that benefited, of course, contractually with Cook's injury.
Sure, yeah.
So it just shows you how sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. McKinnon got lucky last year. All right, let's talk about tight ends and receivers. And Kyle Rudolph just seems to get better and better every year. First few years, he seemed to underachieve a little bit. I didn't really think that he was. I actually thought he was a little overrated. But the last couple of years, things have really changed. He's become a pretty big focal point of this offense. And they don't have a whole lot of depth, it looks like, behind him, but they did add Conklin, who's more of a straight H-back type guy. He's not going to be an inline blocker or anything like that, but Rudolph's a good one.
Yeah, he especially in the red zone. I think he had 9 touchdowns last year, tied for the lead with Stephon Diggs, 9 or 8. I can't quite remember the exact
they both
number.
had 8. Diggs and Rudolph had 8. Yep.
So, yeah, he was a good – he's developing more into that, like a red zone threat, where in the earlier part of his career he was more just like part of the offense as a receiving threat. So they would use him at any time in the game. But now he's just found his role as a good threat in the red zone, especially I think Case Keenum, found him across the middle a bunch of times. And I think he's going to do really well in John DeFilippo's offense, because the one year that DeFilippo was an offensive coordinator was with the Browns in 2015, which was also the year that Gary Barnidge had his random really good season where he had 9 touchdowns and went to the Pro Bowl. So that was under DeFilippo. So I think that we already know that Rudolph is capable of having success, and I think that DeFilippo is going to be really good for him. And then David Morgan is a little underrated. He's more of a blocker, but he caught a bunch of passes when he was in college where he went to UTEP. And then Conklin, he's intriguing. He was hurt, I think, a little bit in OTAs, missed a couple practices, but he'll be interesting to watch in camp and see what they do with him, because I think he could be developing someone who could possibly even replace Rudolph down the road. So somebody to keep an eye on this summer for sure. Yeah,
because DeFilippo, of course, also comes from that Eagle offense that loves to throw the ball to the tight ends. So we'll find out and see if this is going to be more than just Rudolph with the offense. As far as the receivers, Thielen and Diggs, that is really early on in the season when things were going well. They were like the most underrated receiving duo in football, especially when Diggs was healthy. But no longer the case, especially after the playoff run. Everybody knows how dangerous of tandem they are. So the big question, though, is past those guys. Treadwell, of course, is he going to develop, or do you think this is him and he's not capable? He was overdrafted, and then you take a look at Kendall Wright was a really good, solid pickup. He led the Bears in receiving last year. You've got Coley, and then you've got some intriguing rookie free agents as well.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a make or break season for Treadwell. It's unfortunate because he was first-round pick and he's only in his third year, but he hasn't really shown a lot in his first 2 years. So this is the year for him to show that he was worth that first-round selection. And based on what he's said already during OTAs and minicamp, it sounds like he is actually having fun out there. And he even mentioned that Kirk Cousins is actually targeting him. So that kind of I guess was a little dig maybe at Keenum or Bradford, who may not necessarily been able to find him on the field, even though he was on the field a lot last year, and there were points where he was open. You can look at some of like the all-22 film and see that he was open, but Keenum would go elsewhere or try and force the ball.
Yep.
So Cousins is a quarterback known for spreading the ball around, and I think that Treadwell is beginning to figure that out. I actually think that Treadwell is probably going to open the season as the team's third receiver, and not because necessarily he's a better receiver than Kendall Wright, just because if Kendall Wright is the third receiver, he's probably going to be put in the slot, and the Vikings like to use Thielen and Diggs in the slot. And if you got Kendall Wright on the field, that's going to take away some of the weapons they can have in their offense, or different things they can throw around in their offense by having Diggs or Thielen in the slot. So I think Treadwell probably will open the season as the third receiver, unless injuries or something like that. So it's definitely make or break year for Treadwell for sure.
And who do you think has the best chance to be a sleeper? Now Coley probably has the edge since he's been a pro, but three, especially the two rookies. Badette and then the kid from South Dakota State. Who do you think has I know it's hard at this point. We haven't even been at camp yet. But from what you've seen and what you've heard, do either of them have a shot to make the roster, or is it pretty much practice squad? And even though, whatever the case may be, who do you like better?
I'm going to give you two other guys that
really
you didn't mention. Yeah, Brandon Zylstra.
Zylstra? Okay.
Yep. He spent last year in the CFL. I think he led the CFL in receiving yards.
Very nice.
He's a Minnesota kid. I think he's like 6'3", 215 around that area. So he's a bigger receiver. And Mike Zimmer and D. Filippo have been raving about him this offseason already. So he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. And then Chad Beebe. He Don Beebe's son. He's watching his tape. He's very quick and elusive, like his father was. Not as fast, like straight line speed, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he's able to make people miss and get more yards after the catch. And he's also an option as a kick returner or a punt returner, because the Vikings will be looking for probably a new kick returner this year with who did they have last year?
McKinnon.
McKinnon. Yeah, he's gone. They'll be looking at him as a possible option for a kick returner or punt returner, and that's always good for a young player to have in the repertoire to be able to do multiple things.
Sure.
That enables the team to possibly get rid of somebody else and keep someone that they would have liked to keep, if not for I'm going trying to say?
Well, if you have a veteran that's probably making a little bit more money, and he
Right.
maybe he's gonna provide us 10 or 15% of the snaps. Let's go to the young kid that's cheap and that could return kicks for us. So
and he's got both those guys I mentioned, Brandon Zylstra and Chad Beebe. They have a lot of upside too. So there's that factor that they're cheaper than most of their options, and they also have upside. So.
Well, it sounds like that this is the most talent depth wise that they've had in a while. Sounds like it's going to be a very competitive camp.
Yeah, for sure. When you go from like Charles Johnson is your top guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Ago,
yeah,
and he's barely in the league right now. You had Jarius Wright. He was all right, no pun intended. And then Greg Jennings, like Cordell Patterson, all these guys that they tried at receiver, and they finally found a great duo in Diggs and Thielen, who they should make sure that they are able to keep together for the next couple of years, because it's been a while since they've had a duo that good, not just one guy, but a pair of receivers that good. Probably not since Sidney Rice and Percy Harvin that 1 year, but even before that, like consistency-wise, probably not since Moss and Carter.
Yeah. By the way, Johnson's with my Jets, so I don't think he's going to make the team now, because the Jets actually have a lot of receivers, which is they're like the Vikings. They were pretty bad a couple of years ago. Now all of a sudden they're deep at receiver. Speaking of Diggs, his contract's up, right? And there's a lot of contracts up for your team at the end of the season. Yeah. So who do you think? Just looking at guys here, Waynes, Barr, Kendricks, Diggs, Hunter, Murray, Robeson, and there's a few others. There's going to be guys that you're not going to be able to keep. Who do you think is like must keeps?
Well, they already gave an extension. They've given extensions to Eric Kendricks and Neil Hunter.
Okay.
So those guys are signed. I think Kendricks is until 2023 and Hunter's until 2024. So they've taken care of those two. Of course, they're on the defensive side, so Mike Zimmer's going to make sure that happens first.
Uh-huh.
But I think they need to prioritize re-signing Diggs.
Yeah.
Over a guy like Barr, because of what I mentioned before, how they haven't had been able to have a guy that's been solid at receiver.
Sure.
As Diggs has. He said this will be his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. And, he's had a bunch of different quarterbacks, and he's still been able to produce. So I think that's a guy they have to make sure they lock down sooner than later, because if he goes into next season and does great, he's going to be a lot more expensive than he would at this time.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, him over Barr, I think they can re-sign. I think they can extend both of them just because they have enough cap room right now. And just replacing Barr over replacing Diggs, I think would be easier. It's easier to find just a linebacker to plug and play, especially since Barr hasn't been maybe the pass rushing factor that the Vikings thought they were getting when they had him.
Yep.
And then Waynes, they picked up his player option for next year, so he's under contract for next year.
Okay.
But then after that, they have to figure out if they want to extend him and then actually, they don't even have to pick up his player option. They just exercised it next year. So before, I think the new league year, they have to decide if they want to pick it up or not. So.
Okay. Well, still, fact is, and maybe the big one too could be Sheldon Richardson if he has a really good year.
That's going to be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah.
I think he's a one and done kind of guy. Anyways, I think he's going to have a good season and then go get his money elsewhere, which you should do as a player in the NFL right now. You got to go where what's best for you.
Well, before we get to the defensive line, let's talk about the offensive line because and by the way, Easton also, right? His contract's up at the end of this year.
Yeah,
I believe. Okay.
Yeah, he was a restricted free agent, and they gave him like a second or third round tender this year, so he re-signed.
Not that he's not replaceable. Matter of fact, the offensive line for a team that won 13 games wasn't like there was a bunch of Pro Bowlers here. So this is a unit that has to get better. But you take a look at They have a young center. So the expectation is that that'll improve. They brought in Compton to replace Berger, who retired. You've got veterans on a tackle. You just have to step up and play better. But overall, you also brought in 2 rookies. So talk about the line and what you like about it the most.
Well, I think it's one of the best units they've had in quite a while. I mean, they had Matt Khalil and T.J. Clemmings for a couple of years. So the line that they have right now is night and day compared to those guys. When Bridgewater was running for his life. But yeah, they definitely they need some improving, especially on the interior. I think Reef is underrated. He did really well last year. They're considering moving Remmers inside to right guard to take over Berger's old position. So
and then who would play right tackle?
Either Rashad Hill, who's been a utility guy for the past couple of years, or the rookie Brian O'Neill. So that's going to right tackle is going to be a position battle to watch this summer, and then people expect Easton to be left guard, and then Elfline to be center. And Elfline's coming off a broken ankle he suffered at NFC Championship, so you'll see he's expected to be ready around training camp. So we'll see how that goes, if there's any step back. But depth-wise, I think something they need to be careful with, because if one of these guys gets hurt during the season, I think it could be turned into a problem, especially with on the outside with Reef or whoever ends up playing right tackle, because they've had some injuries in the past on the offensive line, and it's really hurt them and prevented them from being as successful as they might have could been with a healthy offensive line. So health is definitely a big factor with this offensive line. Offensive line as it is with the rest of their position groups, but especially for their offensive line next year, they've got to find a way to stay healthy.
Now, do you think then that when camp starts, based on what you've seen so far, that Remmers is going to start off at right guard?
I think so.
Okay.
I think he is. That's the main position that he.
So that's what they're going with. They're going to go with Remmers at right guard. Hill and O'Neill will battle it out for right tackle, and as long as one of them looks good enough, and they don't have to move Remmers back to right tackle and then put Compton at right guard, then that's the way they're going to get set. And then Compton basically becomes the backup
utility
guy. Okay.
Yep. And
makes
sense.
Yeah,
but barring any injuries, I think Remmers will start at right guard, and if someone gets injured, he can be moved back to right tackle. But I think, based on what they saw, he was one of their weaker parts of the offensive line last year. So I think they want to see what he can do on the inside, and it sounds like he impressed during the off season, at least during minicamp and OTAs. So we'll see.
Right.
We'll see how that goes.
Okay, sounds good. Now let's talk about that defensive line and, of course, the defense in general. Major strength for the Vikings under Zimmer. You've got some really good defensive ends, Griffin and Hunter. Robeson, 35, he's still going. I'm sure he's going to start running out of gas soon enough, and that's why Jalen Holmes was drafted. Still got to question whether or not, with Robeson's age and Holmes being a rookie, if anything were to happen to Hunter or Griffin with a 4-3 defense, maybe you'd like to see some more depth there. But having Richardson there is also going to be big. You lost the other 2 defensive tackles. Johnson is gone. Steven is gone. But that also means it's time for Jaleel Johnson to step up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Jaleel was a rookie last year, and rookies, especially on defense, don't get a whole lot of playing time under Mike Zimmer, so it was a year for him to sit back and learn, and I think he'll do well. He had a lot of high regards for him coming out of college, so I think he'll be able to step up this year and fill in that role as backup on defense. And then they do have some depth. They have Shawn Bauer. He was an undrafted free agent last year out of LSU. And he made the roster last year because he had a great preseason and a great camp.
Okay.
So
that's a name to watch then. Somebody that's going to get playing time this year. Okay.
Yep. So he's a guy that could fill in for Griffin or Hunter if one of them has to miss games. I know Griffin's getting a little older, so injuries are starting to become a factor with him. But yeah, that the defensive line it's going to be fun to watch just because with Richardson being there and Joseph and Griffin and Hunter, there aren't going to be a lot of times where the offensive line that they're playing are going to be able to double team anyone because it's just going to be, okay, if we double team this guy, then this guy's just going to hurt us. And because all four of those guys are capable of just creating havoc in the backfield and getting sacks. So it's going to be fun to watch, and I think it's going to help out the rest of their defense as well as, helping out with the pass defense and the run defense. And Richardson's really good in the run game, and that's an area that the Vikings, if there's any area on their defense they need to improve, it's stopping the run, and I think the addition of Richardson will definitely help that out.
Okay, and of course, Lindvall Joseph has been an elite player for you guys for years now. And depth, guys like Cothran, the rookie, Aruna, are these guys going to these future guys to watch it all, or just, depth guys, practice squad guys?
I think this year they're probably going to be practice squad. They'll be, they might be fun to watch in the preseason, but like I said before, it's really hard for rookies to make it on the defensive side unless they're like a first or second round pick and they just come out, on fire.
Does that include Holmes, by the way? Is he going to be kind of like Jaleel Johnson? He's not going to get a whole lot of reps?
I think he's coming off. He suffered a broken hand this offseason, so he's coming off of that. So we'll see how much that affects him in camp. But he could be interesting to watch for sure, just because of how much help they might need on the depth side on the defensive line, because they have those four great starters, but they might need a little more improvement on the depth side for the defensive line for sure.
All right, linebackers, everybody comes back. So that's easy. Barr, Kendricks, and Gideon, and these are solid players. No superstars, but solid players. And you mentioned Barr. Barr seems to be kind of inconsistent. He seems to be a guy that, he played really well as a rookie and then tailed off, and last year was a decent year. But like you said, not maybe the type of usage or performance that the team wants out of him, even though he's a decent player. So this is just a good group. It's a good group, not a great group, but it's a good group, and they do a good job. Who's anybody in particular that sticks out between the three?
Well, regarding Barr, he's made 3 straight Pro Bowls.
What's up with that? I don't know how did he make
I don't know. If that has to do more with like the lack of people to vote for and linebackers in the NFC. But I mean, he's talented, but there's some stuff that could be improved. I know this year the Vikings actually had him working with the defensive line on some drills to maybe improve some of those pass rushing skills, and maybe use him in some packages this year on the defense. So we'll see what to make of that, or if that's just normal OTA mini camp, just fun, just figuring out weird stuff, see if this works. But yeah, Kendricks and Barr have been solid. They've been in the lineup for pretty much every game for the past 2 or 3 years, and the Vikings are a team that only really uses 2 linebackers. Like their nickel defense is pretty much their base defense. So Ben Gideon really only plays probably like 20 to 30 snaps on defense, 20 to 30% of the snaps on defense per game. So they don't really need a whole lot of depth. But they behind Gideon and Kendricks, they have a couple rookies. And guys that were there last year, Kentrell Brothers, he was actually suspended for 4 games, so they're going to need to figure out, if they need to keep him on the roster this year or, let him go during training camp.
He's been basically a good special teams player for you, right?
Yeah. So, but based on the fact that they only play 2 linebackers, really,
that's true. Yeah.
For the majority of the time, they don't really need a whole lot of depth, and Kendricks and Barr have proven that they can stay healthy most of the time. So
And
for now, it's good.
And then you lost Mataafa, who actually was surprising.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't. I guess his size is the reason he didn't get drafted, but still, talented kid to be able to pick him up as a free agent. Unfortunately, he's out for the year, right? And then you also a couple other guys that might be interesting were Downs and Dooley, another free agent and late round pick. But these are guys that are probably practice squad guys, I would think, unless, of course, like you said, they drop brothers.
Yeah. Mataafa was disappointing just because of how intriguing he was. Being that he was really undersized, and he still did. He made a lot of plays as a defensive tackle. And I think the Vikings first tried to move him to linebacker earlier in the offseason, but then realized he's better off on the defensive line. But then, he suffered that torn ACL, and luckily the Vikings are, they're keeping him around to let him rehab with the team and stuff. So they obviously like what they saw from him, and it'll be interesting to see what he can bring to the team in the future.
All right, and finally, the secondary, and this is a real good secondary, not only because they do a good job covering, but they're also very good in the run game, which you have to be for Mike Zimmer. But anyway, you've got Waynes, you have Rhodes. They brought back Terrence Newman. It's another ageless guy that just keeps doing a solid job. Alexander is the one, though, that has to step up, right? And then, of course, your top pick, Mike Hughes, is going to be now he's a rookie. So what kind of time is he going to get? Alexander, he seems like a guy that's going to have to play a little bit better.
Yeah, based on the past, you would assume that it's going to be hard for Mike Hughes to get playing time. But from everything that Mike Zimmer has said so far this offseason, Hughes has been impressing him a lot. I believe he said a couple of weeks ago that Mike Hughes has adjusted to his defense the best of any rookie corner that he's had with the Vikings. So, that's high praise coming from a coach that doesn't really like to give out a lot of praise, especially to rookies on his defense. So, Mike Hughes could get some playing time this year, especially if Mackenzie Alexander isn't able to step it up and improve his play on the inside, because on the slot is really where the Vikings need to find someone to fit that role. They would probably like Mackenzie Alexander to be there, but towards the end of the season last year, he was replaced by Terrence Newman, and that's not something the Vikings can keep relying on, because Newman's getting older, and although he is capable of making plays, he's probably not the guy you want to have in there all season long.
Sure.
Just because of his age.
Yep.
He's a smart guy, but you want the quicker, more physical guys on the inside to help you with the defense, especially with the Vikings defense, because they like to be physical and play, press coverage and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this defense, the secondary is very deep. I think a lot of people were surprised they added a cornerback in the first round of the draft this year, but at the same time, they weren't surprised because of who their head coach is and his expertise being cornerbacks and how much he loves them. I think that might have been a little favor for Zimmer after the Vikings signed Cousins.
Okay.
So
nice.
But and then there's an undrafted kid that they got.
Holton Hill.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
He's a little controversial because he got suspended a couple times while he was at Texas for allegedly failing drug tests. But Mike Zimmer's a guy that's previously, before he was even with the Vikings, has been able to keep some of the more controversial players under wraps. Pac-Man Jones and Vontaze Burfict, guys like that. He was able to get the most out of. So if Colton Hill was going to go to any team and be good, I think he landed in a good spot with the Vikings.
Now, even though Sherrills is a really good punt returner, is there, because he doesn't really do anything except return punts, play special teams, is his job, with the roster, all that stuff, 53-man, Mike Hughes, his ability to return kicks, or Sherrills definitely, he's just too good of a punt returner. He ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and see what Mike Hughes has as a punt returner this summer in camp and in the preseason, and if they don't feel 100% confident, then they'll probably keep Sherrills.
Okay.
Yeah, Sherrills' job is definitely in jeopardy, I guess you could say. But anyone who's been following this team knows that his job has been in jeopardy probably every year that he's been there, and he's been able to somehow make the team every year. But he's a solid option as a punt returner. He's not, flashy and going to make a ton of plays, but he's returned a couple touchdowns. He rarely ever fumbles, and he knows when to fair catch and stuff, and stuff like that's important for a punt returner. You put a rookie back there, he could muff a punt.
That's true.
Cost you a touchdown. So those are things that come into play even before the season starts when figuring out who you want on your roster.
By the way, were you surprised? I don't know if you heard it, but I heard somebody say it, and I'll talk tomorrow. I'll be previewing the Denver Broncos tomorrow to find out. But I heard somebody talk about how the Broncos were really high on Tremaine Brock. Does that surprise you?
No, I don't think so. He was a solid player for the 49ers when he was there. And I think he was just too late to join the Vikings last year. They added him right around the beginning of the season, and I just don't think he was ever able to really, find a fit in Zimmer's defense. Zimmer's not going to throw someone on the field that, doesn't pretty much know 100% of what he's doing on the field. He'd rather have somebody like Terrence Newman on there who's going to make, not as many mistakes. And I remember Brock being, on the field a couple of times last year and getting burned, so if that happens, Zimmer's not going to, want you on the field.
Yeah, and especially in limited snaps. Okay.
But that doesn't surprise me, though. He's had a whole offseason to work.
That's true.
In the Broncos defense, so that doesn't surprise me if they're impressed. He's a good player, but just didn't work out with the Vikings.
All right, and then the safety situation was possibly one of, if not the best, combos last year. Even Sendejo. I mean, everybody talks about Harrison Smith, but Sendejo had a solid season. So this is a good unit across the board, right? No weaknesses here, nothing to worry about.
Not with Harrison Smith. I've been skeptical on Sendejo pretty much ever since he was a starter. He's improved a lot since he first became a starter.
Okay.
But Mike Zimmer does a lot on his defense, I think, to mask some of Sendejo's weaknesses. Sometimes Sendejo has a tendency to, be a headhunter and go for the big hit rather than just the normal tackle. He's been known to get burned on some coverage sometimes. So he definitely had a really good season last year, and he's been in Zimmer's system, so he knows what the defense expects of him. But his cap number is interesting next year because I don't think it would cost a lot for the Vikings to get rid of him next year. So this could possibly be Sendejo's, last year with the team. And backup-wise, they have Jaron Kearse and Anthony Harris, and those guys have been their backups for the past couple of years. So it's not going to look a whole lot different this year.
Yep.
With their safeties, but I think next year they might want to find someone new to put next to Harrison Smith.
Yeah, really. I mean, the entire secondary, and I mean, if you look at it, the back seven is pretty much back.
Yep.
So that kind of
11. I think 10 of the 11 starters from last year are back, and the one that isn't was replaced by Sheldon Richardson. So that's not too bad.
No, not too bad at all. And Trey Matthews is a rookie free agent that might be somebody to watch. Is that somebody to keep an eye on? Maybe practice squad.
Yeah, he's another guy that'll probably be interesting to watch in camp. But that best case scenario is probably practice squad for him.
All right, and then surprised about the Daniel Carlson move, considering again the special teams was really solid last year, and again Forbath, he did mix 6 kicks, but he was 6 of 9 from 50. So does that surprise you a little bit?
A little bit. I mean, I'm not surprised because Vikings general manager Rick Spielman, he drafted Blair Walsh a couple of years ago, so he's not afraid of using a draft pick on a kicker. I personally would not use a draft pick on a kicker because I just feel like a lot of kickers today you can just sign off the street. But I do think that Carlson is probably going to win the job.
Really?
Unless he just looks horrible. in camp, because I don't think you use a fifth-round draft pick on a kicker if he's not going to make the team.
Why don't they like Forbath? What is it about him that they want to move on from him?
I don't know. Because a lot of with the new rules and kickoffs and stuff like that, Forbath doesn't really have the strongest leg.
Okay.
And I think
that
they
matters.
want someone. Yeah, they want someone who's more, got a more overall game. Not that Carlson, they need him to kick 70-yard kicks or whatever, but they probably want someone who's able to be consistent with touchbacks and stuff like that they can rely on to have the same field position, every time. And and Forbath missed a lot of extra points last year. He didn't miss a lot of field goals, but he missed a bunch of extra points.
Yep.
And inside at US Bank Stadium.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's something to take into account.
You're right.
For a team that's defensive oriented that likes to keep things close.
Yep.
1 point can make the difference.
That's right.
And so
he's missed 8 in 2 years.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I really would be surprised if Carlson doesn't win that job.
All right. Yeah, he was pretty awesome at Auburn, and but like you said, kickers. It's like Harrison Butker. I mean, the kid gets drafted in the 7th round, doesn't even make Carolina, goes to Kansas City, and he's like all world.
That guy from the Bucks that they use.
Aguayo gets what, second round?
He didn't make the team.
Yeah, it doesn't even make the team. So yeah, I agree with you. I would stay away from kick. I mean, 7th round maybe, but anything outside of 7th round, to me, I think you're throwing away a pick, and there's too much talent out there. I mean, we just talked about guys, rookie free agents. I mean, there are rookie free agents that can make teams and make an impact, let alone 6th round draft picks or 5th rounders. All right, Adam. So what else you got going on over there? You do podcasts, things of that nature?
Yeah. Me and another guy, Tyler Hagg, he actually works for a site called VikingsTerritory.com, and we have a podcast called Bleeding Purple, the Bleeding Purple podcast, and it's all about the Vikings, and we do it once a week, and it's on iTunes and what other podcasts, wherever you can find them.
Okay.
It's on there. We post it once a week. I actually post it on the Viking Age, so people can look out for that on there too. And then we're just gearing up for training camp. Football.
Yeah.
It's on its way back. It's been a little
Thank
slow
goodness.
it's been a little slow for these past couple of weeks. So I think everyone's ready for football. Everyone will get excited about the first preseason game, and then 5 minutes after it'll be like, okay, let's do
yeah, exactly. I know.
So
right.
No, it'll be good. It's the first, for the Vikings, it's the first training camp at their new practice facility. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Not being at a college campus anymore. They moved into the corporate world with training camps. So we'll see the fan reaction and all that stuff. But it's an exciting year for the Vikings. They have a lot of expectations.
That's right.
They're returning, I believe, 19 of 21 or 19 of 22 starters from last year, and 2 of those they replaced with Kirk Cousins and Sheldon Richardson. So they've got a lot going for them.
Yes. But everybody's still going to pick the Packers and Aaron Rodgers.
Oh yeah. You've noticed that too. Okay, good.
Yeah, of course. You know how it is, and I'm sure you're just happy with that. I'm sure the Vikings and the Viking fans are just happy with that. Go ahead and pick the Packers. Pick Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Pick Mike McCarthy and the Packers. I'll take Mike Zimmer.
Always seems to be the case. Yeah, Mike Zimmer's done very well against Aaron Rodgers in his career, so he's fine with them getting all the glory and the Vikings coming under the radar. So I don't think he minds about that.
You live in Minnesota?
I actually am based in San Diego.
Oh, you're a West Coaster.
Yeah, so I work from home. So I'm originally from upstate New York, and I cover the Vikings, and I live in San Diego. So that's something you probably wouldn't be able to do probably like 5 years ago.
No.
But it's definitely able to do that with Twitter and stuff now, and all the stuff being posted online. So
do you get to go to any games at all?
I haven't been to the new stadium yet, but I'm trying to get out there soon. We'll see what happens. They're coming to LA this year. They're playing the Rams, so I'll probably try and get to that game.
Yeah, you can't miss that.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game to watch too. It's a Thursday night game, so I don't know how both teams will play, but still probably going to be a pretty good game.
And they might actually. I don't know how. Do they sell out those games in LA? Not really, right? No. So you should be able to get a ticket fine. Yeah.
One might be. It might be different this year because the Rams were good last year, but at the same time, LeBron's not playing for them, so
that's true. LA fans, you know how they are.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, I appreciate it. Great job getting us caught up on a lot of stuff for the off season, and that's important, especially for anybody outside of Minnesota area to know exactly what's happening there before camp begins. So I appreciate it. We look forward to talking to you during the season. Best of luck, and again, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for having me, and good luck to your Jets. See if they can beat Tom Brady finally this year, but maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe next year with Sam Darnold. We'll give him a year.
All right. Oh, wait, you got Teddy, though, so you never know.
That's true. I am happy about having Teddy. I actually predicted that on my show. I'm a Jets show. I said, you know what? I said I wanted the Jets I wanted him to sign him, and then he did, and I was real happy about that. So now I don't know if he'll start.
You got a lot of Vikings fans rooting for him. So
well,
sure. So
I hope he starts. Trust me. Yeah. I don't want McCown starting over Bridgewater if Bridgewater plays well. So, but
he's a good kid too. So
well, best of luck to him and the Vikings. And Adam, we'll talk again sometime soon.
All right, thanks again for having me.
You got it. Appreciate it. All right, that's Adam Patrick joining us here, talking about what's going on with the Vikings. And we'll be talking about the Denver Broncos football and Baltimore Ravens football next. That's tomorrow, Friday. And that'll close out the week. So, matter of fact, Baltimore, we've got the Baltimore and Chicago interviews in, and that's important because they're in the Hall of Fame game. Everybody else pretty much starts on the 25th, with the Vikings starting on the 27th for training camp. That's for veterans. All right. Again, thanks for Adam Patrick at thevikingage.com for joining us here to talk Minnesota Vikings football on the OFN meeting room. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN. We'll let you know when the shows are available on demand. Go to ourlads.com to order a draft review guide. And we'll see you again tomorrow for more coverage of training camp on the Our Lads Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the start of the 2018 football season.